Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining us in today's webinar on how Pizza Hut built an analytics platform on AWS to make timely business decisions. My name is Abhinav Gupta, and I lead strategy and engagement with partners here at Amazon Web Services, focusing on analytics and machine learning. And I'll be your host and the moderator for today's webinar. When you joined today's webinar, you selected join either by phone call or computer audio. If for any reason you would like to change your selection, you can do so by accessing your audio pane in your control panel. Also from this control panel, you will have the opportunity to submit questions to today's presenters by typing it in the questions pane. We'll collect these and address them during the Q&A session at the end of today's presentation. If for some reason we are not able to get to your questions, we plan on responding to each of you personally through email, and the recording of the webinar will be available about a week after the conclusion of this presentation. So keep an eye out for that email. With that, let me walk you through with the agenda. So we have an exciting and interesting agenda lined up for you. I'll do an introduction of our speakers, followed by my presentation where I'll share why journeys matter. Then we'll have a presentation from Searce. We'll talk about how did they go about implementing analytics project at Pizza Hut. And we'll do a fireside chat with Pankaj Batra, who is a Chief Brand Officer. And then finally, we'll take a Q&A session from the audience. So with that, let me just do an introduction of our speakers. Along with me, I have Kelvin Lim. He is the head of cloud solutions at Searce for AWS in Southeast Asia. Searce is AWS advanced consulting partner with deep expertise in analytics and machine learning and has AWS data analytics competency. Kelvin is a technologist and business owner with more than 12 years of comprehensive diverse achievements and experiences in the telecommunications, technology, and retail industries. He has successfully co-founded and built multiple F&B concepts and events company and serving pro bono as a technical consultant to eligible companies. Thank you, Calvin. We also have a very special guest, Pankaj Batra, who is a Chief Brand Officer for Pizza Hut and is responsible for marketing and sales, food innovation, and e-commerce for the APAC region. Pankaj has over 20 years of experience in brand management and sales in consumer, food, retail, and services sector. He specializes in nurturing Western brands in Asia, Middle East, and has deep know-how of startup ventures and managing franchisee relationships. Pankaj was awarded CMO of the Year in 2014 and was also listed in 100 most talented global marketing leaders by the World Marketing Congress. Thank you, Pankaj and Kelvin, for joining us today. Really appreciate for you having us. So with that, let's go straight into my presentation where I share why journeys matter. So since we are talking about customer and why customers' journey matter, I thought I'll start with something that is at the core of AWS and broader Amazon. Right from the beginning, we have had three big ideas at Amazon, and we have stuck with them for over 20 years. And they are the reason we are successful. Put the customer first, invent, and be patient. As Jeff Bezos says, customers are always beautifully dissatisfied, even when they are happy or even when they don't know it. They actually want a better way. It's just they don't know yet what that should be. So customers' obsession is not just about listening to customers. It's also inventing on their behalf. So you have to be an inventor or a pioneer on their behalf. And this is a long-term thing, which means you have to be patient to see results of all the work you're doing on behalf of your customers in 2 or 3 years down the road. With that, let me take you through my presentation. We'll talk about what do we really understand about customer and their journey and how they use technologies. What are some of the technology blockers and how we can help to overcome those blockers. So customer expectations are continuously changing, especially when you look at millennials or Gen Z. They're looking for products they are much more emotionally connected to. They're looking for experiences which are environmental friendly. Our culture and explosion of technology advancements continues to normalize increasingly high levels of services. For instance, 67% of consumers now check the return policy before they purchase. Increasingly, it is the emergence of post-purchase experience that has accelerated and expanded the complexity of customer journeys. 36% of consumers will go somewhere else if they have a bad post-purchase experience. 20% never come back, and 40% of millennials will go public with their experience. In fact, when a brand is loved by a consumer, 59% will walk away after a few bad experiences, and 17% will walk away from a brand they love only after one bad experience. A recent Harvard Business Review survey of a massive 46,000 shoppers found that only 7% shop exclusively online. 20% were store-only shoppers, while 73% moved around across multiple channels. All of this means that customers, especially in the retail or consumer goods segments, are no longer solving for channels. The customer is the channel. And engagement means from demand to delivery. And when you look at customer journeys, there's no set path. They stop, start, retrace their steps, and can last for extended periods of time. One experience no longer leads to another the way it once did. Rather, it's one good experience earns another. And in fact, we as organizations can't afford to view journeys from a distance and then react to the choices made by customers. We need to proactively guide consumers' choice to ensure the path continues forward with you as your customers and with your brand. In other words, customer journeys must be led. And I'll share later in terms of technology and platform you're required to achieve this. So if we look around us, customers' brand story is constantly being told, and opinions are constantly being formed. Brand perception value is going up and down every second of every day. Loyalty is earned or lost with each engagement. So for a brand and store differentiation to have the maximum impact, customer's journey must be executed well. And the point I'm trying to make here is that if you look at this slide, it shows major points of engagement before, during, and after purchase in a customer's journey. And we have identified a few moments of choice, or call it moments of truth, which make many of the points I've made so far even more real. Zero moment of truth. It's where consumers get to know your brands through personalized marketing campaign on social media or personalized ad. First moment of truth, when customers really buys your product. Second moment of truth, when they use your product. And finally, when they interact with you either by returning your purchase or their purchase or speaking with someone in your call center. That is the third moment of truth. It only requires focus on a few moments of choice or moments of truth to highlight the frustration on the part of many customers and the challenge faced by many organizations. 63% of consumers expect personalization as standard, and 74% are frustrated when it's not offered. 60% of consumers are unhappy with the return process. So it's no surprise then that delivering in the moments of choice that creates journey before, during, and after the purchase inspires customers who pay 7% premium, are 8% less likely to switch to a competitive brand, and twice as likely to spontaneously recommend a brand to others. And therefore, it's a huge opportunity for organizations to transform customer experience at every touch point in customer journey. The fact that Forrester found 70% of consumers willing to spend more with the retailer when journeys are executed properly is only one of the reasons they are 30 to 40% more predictive of customer satisfaction and charm. Data also confirmed that a bad experience is 4 to 5 times more harmful than a good experience is helpful. Journey analytics, which is a special study that people are doing, continues to mature, and companies like Forrester have built ROI models around that. For example, in a big box retail, A 1-point increase in a customer experience index score can equate to $2.44 incremental annual revenue per customer. And let's say you have 10 million customers on a conservative side. We are roughly talking about 24.4 million in incremental revenue from only a 1-point gain. So the question is, if it is so lucrative, why aren't all organizations capturing customers' journey? One of the main reasons is the technology landscapes that most of the companies have. Simply engaging customers' journeys requires existing systems to be interconnected and built on agile architecture, so it is able to quickly adapt to change. 70% of CXOs report that technical debt is severely limiting their ability to innovate, while 69% says that it makes them less responsive to changes in the market. The maintenance of legacy system is paralyzing IT budgets. Organizations have been pursuing a single view of the customers to have a common understanding of engagement across channels. However, prior approaches of deploying monolithic platforms proved too costly and time-consuming. The strategy has also suffered from a lack of real-time data availability and incomplete views. For example, the average retailer has customer data in over 16 systems, and 51% of them report they're unable to connect data between multiple systems. And finally, transformation disconnect. Statistics shows that CXOs now rate AI/ML as the #1 game changer. However, the same CXOs only rank AI/ML number 8 in terms of spending priority. Most aren't sure where to begin. And to illustrate this, let's take a look at this diagram. So if we look at it, over a period of time, customers have accumulated a lot of data, terabytes, or in some cases, even petabytes of data, which is typically sitting in an on-prem database or maybe behind an ERP system or a CRM system. You collected the data, did an ETL and ingested into a data warehouse, whether it's Teradata, SQL Server, or our Oracle data warehouse. And then you ran a reporting tool like Business Object, Crystal Reports, and in some cases, even model tools like Tableau for visualizing it and to make sense of the data. And when you got more data, you got yourself more data warehouses. And the challenge with that is that even at that scale, you started to have data silos and start losing 360-degree perspective of your customers and your business. I'll give you an example. If you want to derive insights from online buying behavior, you need to have purchase data and clickstream data that is coming from the website. The owners of those data sources may be two different teams within your organization. For instance, the owner of purchase data or sales data may be sitting with your IT, who's managing ERP systems. And the clickstream data may be sitting with your marketing team. But the real insight comes when you merge those data sources. So it's not just reporting on sales, but identifying users who visited these pages and clicked on 20 different products, and how much did that page influence conversion revenue. And getting these smart insights means we need to break down those data silos. And there is nothing better than data lake as a starting point for you. Because with a data lake, customers can store all their structured and unstructured data using the open data formats of their choice, whether it's ORC or Parquet, and customers can run any type of analytics from historical reporting to machine learning based predictive analytics without having to transform or move large amounts of data. And if you look at the portfolio of AWS analytics services, it provides services to help customers transition to a modern data platform. I won't go through each and every service, but if you start from bottoms up, we start with something, we call it Amazon S3 as a data lake. And if you just take S3 and throw some files in there, then I would call it a data swarm, not a data lake. Our goal is to get you to a true data lake. On top of S3, we have a service, AWS Glue, which is fully managed extract, transform, and load, which is ETL service that helps you to transition from data swarm with a lot of information to a highly curated data index and analytics optimized format. Catalog, so it can be discovered, security can be configured, and is made available for a variety of analytics use cases. On top left, we have services like Amazon Redshift, which is the most popular and the fastest cloud data warehouse. And it keeps getting faster. With continuous performance improvements and optimizations, it is now 10 times faster than it was just 2 years ago. And we have now added over 200 features in the last 18 months. On the right-hand side, we have a service called Amazon SageMaker, which is a fully managed machine learning service, and it allows data scientists and developers to build, train, and deploy machine learning models in production. Customer can use this service to build various advanced analytics use cases. Alternatively, customers can also use high-level AI services for implementing use cases like fraud, recommendation, forecast, and many more. Excuse me. At Amazon Web Services, we have the deepest and the broadest portfolio of analytics services. And as a result of these advantages, there are more customers running their data lakes and analytics on AWS than anywhere else. For example, in financial services, we have customers like Capital One, FINRA, NASDAQ. In media and entertainment, we have Discovery Channel, HBO, Netflix as some of our customers. In healthcare and life sciences, we have Amgen, Bristol Myers and Squibb, Pfizer, and many, many more customers across various industry verticals who are using AWS Analytics platform. So let me share with you one of the customer case studies who transitioned from monolithic architecture to build a modern analytics platform on AWS. So I'll talk about Amazon.com. As you may know, that Amazon.com builds and operates thousands of microservices to serve millions of customers. These includes catalog browsing, order placement, transaction processing, delivery scheduling, video services, Prime registrations, to name a few. Each of these services publishes data sets to Amazon's massive analytics infrastructure. We used to be Oracle Redford Data Warehouse. This had 50 petabytes of data with over 75,000 tables, published by 1,800 different teams, while more than 3,300 data consumers teams analyze this data to drive insights, identify opportunities, prepare reports, and evaluate business performance. Challenge for the Amazon.com team was that the on-premise Oracle database infrastructure was not designed for processing petabytes of data. And that resulted in a monolithic solution which was hard to maintain and operate. Also, it was becoming financially inefficient because it was statically sized for peak loads and lacking the ability to dynamically scale for hardware cost optimization with ever-increasing Oracle licensing costs. So the new data lake solution utilizes a variety of AWS analytics services to deliver performance and reliability at exabyte scale for processing data, streaming, and analytics. Amazon S3 is used as a data lake, and Amazon Redshift as the data warehouse, which allow analytics end users to run complex queries and visualize results using services such as Amazon QuickSight. Further, Amazon integrated the data lake with Redshift Spectrum feature, which allows users to query any data set in the data lake directly from Redshift without needing to synchronize the data to their cluster. And as a result, after migrating to AWS, database costs were reduced by over 60%. Database administrative overheads were reduced by 70%. And the performance of the most critical applications improved by 40%. The new analytics platform has one data lake with over 100 petabytes of data, almost twice the size of previous Oracle data warehouse. So how do we build a modern data platform similar to what Amazon.com did? As we all know, the amount of data available to us is exploding and continues to grow at an exponential rate. So the first step is to move and store your data in the cloud, as customers for the first time no longer have to worry about throwing away data they may need in the future. They can store anything and everything virtually cost effectively in the cloud. Then the next step is to use purpose-built analytics and focus on driving innovation rather than the undifferentiated task of heavy lifting of managing hardware and software installation, configuration, patching, and backups. Customers can start building what we call a purpose-built data lake architectures, which includes modernizing your data warehouse, as modern data warehouse will allow customers to query and analyze all their data in one place without dealing with the unnecessary data movements and data silos, and perform any type of analysis on their data on an as-needed basis. This allows customers to build data-driven apps, as you no longer have to worry about what were previously significant blockers, such as global distribution, scale, performance. Companies like Airbnb, Snap, Lyft, and many more needed to ensure early on their infrastructure that their infrastructure would scale globally without any performance bottlenecks to account for the future growth of their users. And once organizations start to build data-driven apps and data warehouse running in the cloud, it frees up additional resources and time for organizations to look at new ways to innovate and provide their customers with differentiated products and services by using technologies like artificial intelligence and machine learning. And once organizations figure out how to effectively use these technologies to get more value from their data, they're able to come out with new products, create new business models, and find new customer segments. And this will create a spiral effect and build what we call the data flywheel. And this will enable our customers not only modernize their data infrastructure, but will be able to provide insights from their data to drive innovation and move their business forward. This will enable them to capture customers' journey and be able to serve them at every point along this journey. And by doing this, they'll be able to become what we call a data-driven organization. So with that, I would like to invite our next speaker, Kelvin Lim, who is a lead consultant at Searce. Kelvin, over to you.
All right, thank you so much, Abhinav. All right, so good day to everyone. Thank you for taking the time to join us in this exclusive webinar. So today we're going to talk about how Searce and AWS actually help Pizza Hut in their digital transformation and also their implementation journey as well. So my name is Kelvin. I'm the head of cloud solutions in Searce, taking care of the AWS business here in Southeast Asia. So just a very quick trivia about Pizza Hut, right? So everybody knows about the red iconic roof that is used by the Pizza Hut restaurants, and it's used to be scattered all across the Americas and all around the world. And I still recall the day when I had this pizza, eat all you can back here in Singapore. And I had like 15 large slices of pizzas back then, and with the crust on as well. So did you guys know that Pizza Hut was in fact founded in 1958 by two brothers in college? They actually borrowed $600 from their mother, and franchising was almost instantaneous, and they had their very first location in Kansas. And fast forward to today, now Pizza Hut is located, and they have in more than 100 countries, and they have more than 18,000 individual stores worldwide as well. And in Southeast Asia alone, they have more than 3,000 stores. And did you also know that, in fact, in 1994, Pizza Hut was one of the first few quick service restaurants that offered the online delivery service? But we know back then it didn't really take off, because for online delivery service to happen, I think you need the confluence of various factors to work, like fast internet speed, your last mile delivery, and so on. But today we're just going to focus on the implementation journey of the data project that we did for Pizza Hut. So when we sat down and we spoke to Pizza Hut and their management team, we wanted to understand and discover what their key challenges are. So there are 5 key challenges that they have expressed. So the very first one is they describe that there is actually no single source of truth, right? They do not know what is the latest file or which data to believe, which is the latest one. Is it version 2? Is it version 2_final? That's the latest one. And they didn't really have a sense of which particular presentation or file has the latest data. And when there's so much human intervention that's involved, it is definitely very, very prone to errors as well. And the data itself, it's also coming in in various formats. So they could come in the form of Excel sheets, spreadsheets, different types of flat files, CSV. They could come from the various portals as well, from the ERP systems, the CRM, and all that. And they have a huge bulk of analytical data that's coming from their websites, their mobile apps, and also point of sale data that's coming in from the stores as well. So it's very, very challenging for the various departments to share up-to-date data. And also data security and compliance, it's also a vital part over here as well, because there are so many access and exposure points that they need to guard for. Next up, there wasn't any common platform for visualizations as well. So many a times, a lot of the content producers, they have to manipulate the data from one spreadsheet to another. They got to massage the data, put it into beautiful PowerPoints, and they're doing this day in, day out, or at least at every month's end. And they just got to repeat it over and over again. And it's highly challenging and very, very dreadful for the people and to kind of maintain the consistency each time through the various reports. Next up, there was also a poor observability of key performance metrics as well. Very often, all these key performance metrics and vital metrics that is necessary for the business to make insightful decisions are buried underneath many, many layers of data. And many a times it's not as timely as desired, and the ship has kind of sailed before they could actually understand what truly mattered. And if only they had the data earlier, they will probably be able to make a better decisions moving forward. And last but not least, they found that it was highly time consuming and very, very labor intensive. And it wasn't automated at all. They had to go through very, very manual process, error prone. And in a sense, it's not really productive because they are not producing valuable work that's valuable for the business. So I'd just like to talk about a little bit. So who is Searce? Searce is in fact a niche global consulting firm who specializes in data analytics and migration workloads. We emphasize a lot on the cloud-first strategy, and we are born in the cloud. We have more than 16 years of experience in this line of work, which spans across many verticals from retail, fintech, manufacturing, and e-commerce companies as well. We have deep knowledge and vast experience and expertise in deploying data analytics and AI ML workloads at scale and also at speed. So having collected and absorbed all the challenges and understanding the goals from Pizza Hut, we had in our mind, we designed some solutions, and we thought what would help Pizza Hut in their endeavor. So first off, we had to make sure that what is key and important here in any data project is to make sure that we have a framework that governs it. So in this particular instance, we had implemented a data governed framework. So what do we mean by that? So first off, we are talking about a common data model. So what is necessary in a common data model is because in future, when we have additional data sources that comes in, it is so much easier to extend the capability of the architecture. So with a common data model, it ensures high data consistency rules, and it presents to the user highly structured data, not only to ensure data integrity, but also, as I mentioned earlier, in the future, when we have new data sources that's coming on board, it's much easier to plug and play. And also, since they have mentioned that compliance and data governance is a highly regulated practice in Pizza Hut, we had to make sure that as well as PII data is secured, the security protocols are hardened, and we only allow access to the various authorized users. Next up, we designed purposefully a data warehouse and data lake architecture for Pizza Hut. We had to ensure that this architecture is robust and reliable, and its ability to scale according to demand and load of the queries. We had to make sure in order for it to be robust, there are regular snapshots that are taken for the DB. In case of any DRs or any failures, we're able to spin up the instances relatively quickly because we are also using infrastructure as a code. We got CloudFormations, templates all authored for them and kept safely. And in terms of robustness as well, we had to make sure that we have S3 as their data lake and also include a high availability with 11 zeros, so making sure that the data is always available and always safe. And moving along for the AI and ML workloads, we have in fact provisioned for training models as well. So that allows Pizza Hut to be able to do predictive workloads instead of just doing prescriptive workloads. I.e. to say that they can now, instead of being reactive, it allows them to be proactive, to be able to understand and draw insights from the data much earlier and decide what are the next steps moving forward. And the highly structured data, in fact, allows us to do that. So next up for the visualizations, since Pizza Hut, they already have Microsoft Azure licenses and they're already using Power BI. So the AWS architecture itself, Redshift, they have the respective connectors to allow us to easily connect to Power BI. So in this particular instance, we have actually implemented and deployed Power BI for the visualizations needs. And that really allows their users to be able to slice and dice the data according to the views that they require. And last but not least, I think one very key important factor over here as well is we are working in a highly agile fashion, and we also adopted the Scrum methodology as well to make this all work. And I think one of the misconceptions here is that Scrum and Agile, a lot of people actually think it's only for software developmental teams, but it really works very well for us in this case, right? In order to be able to adapt to the fluid changes and working very, very closely with the various stakeholders. So what about the data warehouse and the data lake? So with that, right, first off, we had to design the various data pipelines. So we had to build customized APIs to ingest the data that's coming in. And not only that, we also leverage upon native AWS services such as S3 cross-replication service in order to ingest the data. And for us to do that, we had to work very, very closely with the third-party vendors and various separate portals, either by their own technical teams or stuff that they have actually outsourced to separate vendors as well. In order to make it secure, we in fact implemented OAuth 2.0 and also used RESTful APIs to ingest the data. And we had to make sure that regardless of the data, whether is it in transit or whether is it at rest, they are secure. So in transit, we actually implemented HTTPS and also TLS to avoid prevent man-in-the-middle attacks. And for data at rest, we have in fact encrypted them using AES 256. So really, really secure. In terms of the infrastructure, we designed a modern analytics data stack for them that is scalable and extensible. We had to make sure that it is future-proof. As I mentioned earlier, in order to do that, we have put in place a data governance framework, leveraging upon the common data model to extend the architecture and new data sources in future. And also with infrastructure as a code, we have this ability right now to protect against failures, and the CloudFormation templates allow us to recover really, really quickly. And as a result, we have helped Pizza Hut and Yum to reduce their capital and infrastructure and also resources as well. We optimize and manage the cost for them. Right now, there's no need for a large IT team of IT personnel to build and maintain the infrastructure. And in fact, within 5 months, Searce and AWS has helped Pizza Hut and Yum build 4 data pipelines, and also having the capability to adjust to the different currency fluctuations and develop close to 30 unique business intelligence report. And with all that, it allows Pizza Hut and Yum to have a 360 degrees customer view and their customer's journey. just like touch a little bit about Scrum and working in a highly agile and iterative environment. How does it actually help us in this instance? So as you can see over here, the Scrum flywheel, right? We have the define, design, test, and analyze. These are the four main phases in a Scrum and Agile methodology. So in the define stage, as an example, is for instance, as a country manager, I want to be able to see the overall performance of my physical stores in Singapore relative to the various delivery channels at a glance for the period of June 2020. Right, and then the team will then set it out to design, look at the data that's supposed to be ingested, build the pipelines, and continuously refine it, and also understand from the client what would the best business intelligence report or visualization help them in this particular use case. And we collected all these as product features and backlogs, and we constantly went ahead in this iterative environment to deliver and deploy the various features. And in fact, we had a pool of certified Scrum Masters in Searce in the organization as well. So that really helped us in this particular instance. And we also made sure that we had daily stand-ups with also the local and the remote teams. As we all know, due to the COVID-19 pandemic, it's a challenge to be able to meet face-to-face, previously, at least during the month of February and March. And we had remote teams that's situated in India, and we have also users because the franchisees are all sitting across Asia as well. And being able to have all these daily stand-ups with all these teams greatly helped and accelerated the product development. And with all the open conversations and high transparency with clear lines of accountability, and also making sure that there is full ownership for the delivery teams to be able to deliver each of the product feature after discussing with the users. That really ensured that we managed to deliver what the user wants at the end of the day, and also adhering close to the sprint goals and the set cadence for each cycle, working on the product backlog and achieve small regular wins with every incremental feature added. That really gives us the confidence, and the small wins actually delivered the small motivation that's required for us to deliver and increase the velocity in terms of the product releases and greatly improve the change management process as well. So, and as a result, it allowed us to have a faster time to market or faster time to bring the completed product to production environment. And ultimately, it's really to meet the client's expectations, their requirements. Being able to have a minimum viable product, a working product at each sprint cycle actually means a lot to the team. And these small accomplishments definitely help accelerate the product development. So how did we do it? Right now, I'd just like to cover a little bit about the technical implementation, share a little bit about the system design, the data flow, and also the architecture diagram that we have designed for Pizza Hut. So for Searce and AWS, we all know that AWS provides an expensive and powerful toolset for the task at hand. So it has lots of services, powerful services within its ecosystem. But I just want to highlight some of the ones that we have implemented and deployed in our architecture. So on the left, you can see that we have Amazon Redshift, we have SageMaker for the predictive workloads, we have leverage on Amazon S3 for the data lakes. We have used Amazon Lambda for the step functions to run through some of the functions that we have used in the entire deployment. Since serverless and fully managed, it makes things so much easier. We have also leveraged on EC2 compute powers to run some of our Bastion hosts, and also the desktop servers for Power BI as well. On the right, we have AWS organizations. So using organizations at incognito to make sure that the IAM users have the right access to the different services within AWS. And the rest of them, for example, GuardDuty, CloudTrail, and CloudWatch, just to make sure that the architecture itself is secure. And we do have logging and monitoring practices in place. And for lake formation, as I mentioned earlier, we built this with the understanding that we want the infrastructure to be as a code. So in terms of failure, at any point in time, we are able to spin up the recovery instances very, very quickly. At this stage, I'd just like to draw your attention to Redshift. Why did we choose Amazon Redshift to be our data warehouse solution over here? In fact, it's pretty easy and to understand why we wanted to use Redshift. First off, I think Redshift is an extremely powerful and efficient data warehouse service that is able to query up to petabytes of data. Imagine petabytes, it's like you have 15 zeros at the end. If you look at high definition video, it's in fact equivalent to 13.3 years worth of high definition video. So that's a lot of data that Redshift is able to query upon. And so with the large amount of data available, how do we draw insights from them? How do we actually correlate the different whether it's success or failures of a particular campaign against the data that's collected? So if we can look at them in different silos, these are the data that Pizza Hut and Yum has, and they want to collect, and they want us to be able to build and draw insights from them. So starting from the left, right, we have Google Analytics and also the guest experience survey sitting in this particular silo. So for Google Analytics, this is where we actually bring in the clickstream data, the website visits, the page landings, the different customers' demographics, and at which point in time do they add or drop anything from the cart. All right, and from the guest experience surveys, we are able to understand exactly what the customers are feeling, what are their satisfaction scores, what do they like, what do they dislike during a particular transaction with Pizza Hut. At the next silo, we are looking at the food aggregators and how does it compare, against their own delivery platforms. And the third silo, we are looking at the e-commerce. So for e-commerce, we are comparing their sales performance and understanding the behavioral data of all the clients that's coming in. What kind of items would likely be able to upsell? What do the customers like to bundle buy this together with? So the e-commerce portion actually comprises of their a web portal and also their mobile applications that allows the customers to buy and order their meals and their pizzas. And with that, all right, we end up at the store level where we actually collect the point of sale data, the back of house data, and also data that's coming from the call center. So with that, we have an end-to-end view of the entire customer's journey. Given this holistic approach, we're able to have a 360 degrees view of the customer, because right now at the store level, we are able to ingest the point of sale data. We're able to understand what are the costs and the revenue drivers, and what are the marketing campaigns that was driven and promoted way earlier, and understand at the end, how does it translate to the effectiveness of the campaign. So right now, I'd just like to touch on very, very briefly on the data flow and how the data actually transfers from move from each stage to the other. So at the start, where we ingest the data actually coming in from multiple sources. They come in various formats as well. They could be in JSON, flat files, and so on. They come in various frequencies and periods of ingestion. So we had to make sure that our batch jobs and ingestion cycles handles and take care of that. And not only that, we had to take into account the various time zones, because we all know our New Zealand counterparts start their day way earlier than the rest of the folks in Southeast Asia. So we had to take all these into considerations and making sure that data is ready on time. Next up, as the data, we fetch the data in the ingestion process and put it into the ETL phase itself. This is where all the APIs and native services that we have mentioned earlier comes in. We had to make sure that it is secure, so we have implemented OAuth 2.0 for all the security handshakes and tokens. And as I mentioned earlier, also the encryption is done at the buckets, and also we had to ensure that we take care of the data that's coming in from transit and also data at rest. And we had to also ensure that we work very closely with third-party vendors to adhere to all these strict data security protocols as well. And last but not least, as the data moves to the OLAP phase, this is where we use Redshift as our powerful data warehouse solution. And this is where we had to ensure that the right data are accessible to the users at the right time. So we had to set up proper roles and privileges according to the different organization structures. For instance, you have a Singapore country manager, you have a Malaysian operations manager, you have your Indonesian marketing manager. So what kind of views can all these different roles access? So we had to make use of role level security to ensure that we have granular access to all this data. And next up, I'd just like to touch on the system architectural diagram. So first off, we have our data ingestion piece. So this is where our APIs and data, that's where it's coming in. And it moves on to the data processing. And this is where all the ETL magic happens. So we use a combination of Lambda and step functions to perform the extract, transform, and load functionality. And we have also provision for Glue to handle all the complex transformations. So in the data repository part itself, this is where we have designed and implemented raw and processed buckets. This is where it actually handles the hot and cold data. And in future, in fact, we are looking at even helping Pizza Hut and Yum save for the cost by looking at archival of the cold data in Glacier, and also being able to reduce costs even further by using AWS Athena and also AWS Spectrum as well. So instead of copying the data into AWS Redshift, we could actually drastically reduce the cost by querying the data right straight from the S3 buckets themselves. So, and next, this is where the brains of the architecture is all about. This is where we have the Amazon Redshift and Amazon SageMaker. So this is the part where it allows the data scientists to go in there to execute the SQL queries at speed, and also to train the different training models in the SageMaker AWS service itself to perform predictive workloads in future. For instance, like your capacity planning to be able to forecast certain measures, and also to build a recommendation engine for the customers of Pizza Hut as well. And in terms of data consumption, we have used Power BI in this particular instance to build the custom dashboards for all the various users. And in fact, dependent on the users that logged in, the appropriate dashboards would switch its view according to the various access control levels. And having all these, we have a suite of services that helps to orchestrate and make sure that it's running in a very, very smooth process. So on the left, for workflow and process orchestration, we have used Apache Workflow. So this is the engine where it determines and runs the automated cron and batch jobs. So, and we also have a suite of services over here for logging, for monitoring, and for notification and threat detection purposes. And as I mentioned earlier, we have leveraged upon using Azure Active Directory to allow federated access to all the users for this data warehouse project. All right, so for the key takeaways for Pizza Hut data warehouse project, it's really AWS with its proven and high performance mature set of data, services, and tools. This is the easy choice for us to actually go with. And I think what's really important here is being able to understand exactly what is Pizza Hut data strategies, what is currently in their inventory, what is their roadmap, where are the gaps, and how do we set aside to achieve and fill up these gaps. And what's also very important over here is the very strong support from all levels of management. And in fact, they have various stakeholders from the different departments that has participated in this project itself and are the actual users of this project. And last but not least, with the close collaboration with all the various stakeholders and also implementing the agile development process, we have made sure that the project ends up in a success. So as you can see, this is the old workflow. It comprises of a lot of manual workflows. You have Excel sheets, you've got data coming in from ERP and CRM systems, you're transforming them and putting into Excel sheets, and then putting them to PowerPoint slides for consumption by the users. And you can see over here, we have managed to drastically transform them into a new workflow where we are getting all the data from the various data sources, putting it into a modern data warehouse stack, and in a very, very highly automated fashion to push the data out to the business intelligence visualization tools of the choice. And in closing, I think Searce has helped Pizza Hut to build a modern data stack to obtain valuable customer insights across 13 countries. And with the automated dashboard-based platform implemented by Searce on AWS, gives Pizza Hut a real-time visualizations and analytics results. It is supported with data from the aggregated performance of more than 3,000 franchisees in the region through revenue, transactions, and customer engagement scores. And all these can only be made possible with the 360-degree view of the customers and their buying journeys. With that, thank you very much.
Thank you, Kelvin, for such an enlightening presentation. And thanks for sharing the Pizza Hut implementation journey. Now, I would like to invite Pankaj Batra again. Thanks, Pankaj, for joining us. Just to again bring the audience on the same page, Pizza Hut is the largest pizza restaurant company in the world in terms of both the number of outlets and the percentage of market share that it holds. It is known to offer consistent services across 18,000 over stores in 100 over countries. And Pizza Hut is well known worldwide for its culture to fulfill the objective of satisfying each and every customer. So with that, my first question to you, I really would like to understand, Pankaj, is how does Pizza Hut manage its brand consistency in so many different locations and continues to be the consumer's choice?
Well, thanks, Abhinav, and thanks for having me. This is a great question. We operate through franchisees pretty much in every country. And therefore, we want to give them the independence to do what's right in every market. At the same time, we kind of define the standards. So I would call it freedom within a framework where Yum and Pizza Hut define the standards for the brand, both in terms of operations as well as marketing, as well as product. And then we leave it and we work with our franchise partners, truly as partners, to do what is right in the marketplace.
Interesting. So with this explosions of explosions of options for customers, right? It is very important to utilize. It is very important for Pizza Hut to utilize data and continue to provide excellent customer service. What are your top priorities, and how does data analytics is going to support you as a Pizza Hut organization? And why is data important for Pizza Hut in today's context?
Yeah, again, I think this is probably getting more and more important, with every week and every day that passes by. But really two areas. One I'd like to call out is that today, the way we've been kind of looking at data needs to transform into something that can aid us from a business perspective, as well as make our consumers bigger fans of Pizza Hut. So very clearly, the intention is to leverage data for business intelligence, and at the same time leverage data so that we can give customers a much better ordering experience. In terms of the areas that are of priority, there are really 5. And when it comes to the whole digital roadmap, it gets broader. But big data is a very, very big priority for this reason.
Okay, that's interesting because a lot of customers that we talk to, they're talking about this whole digital transformation, right? What are the key strategies or trends and areas that Pizza Hut would focus on this digital transformation path that you just talked about?
So I think it starts with restaurant tech and really helping our restaurant teams and making it easier for our restaurant teams to execute consistently within the standards that we've called out. So that's the first part, restaurant technology. The second is e-commerce, and we're seeing obviously a migration from physical ordering to digital ordering, and that the speed of that transformation has just gone up under the current conditions of COVID. But this trend was there even earlier. So I think e-commerce and our ability, therefore, to use digital assets to give consumers a better user experience every time they access the brand is very important. The third is really how we market the brand, and therefore the whole performance marketing metrics and the use of digital media to drive acquisition, conversion, and retention. The fourth actually is the use of digital to really create content for the brand. The days of just using traditional media, it's really about a holistic experience for the customer and using every media platform that our customers are consuming. And finally, of course, it's big data. And our ability to take the information that our customers are sharing with us and use that to give them an easier experience.
Okay, that's very enlightening because I think with today's DNA, the data is exploding, and it's available to all the companies like Pizza Hut. So, how has data helped you to design Pizza Hut strategies around exciting new menus, flavors, new marketing tactics, or speed to market, and focusing on how you reduce the delivery time?
Yeah, I think it's a great category to be in, Abhinav. And I must tell you that unlike what you may think, most of our customers actually plan to order pizza just within an hour of the time they consume it. So it's a fairly impulse, driven category. And therefore, our ability to market and use data in the moment is really important. The business is driven by lunch and dinner. The business is driven by weekends and weekdays. And therefore, time is of essence. And, the timing of the message is very important. Similarly, the kind of offer or the kind of menu that you present to the customer will be very different on a weekday lunch where he may be on his own versus a weekend where he's celebrating with his family or with young adults in the group. The other part, of course, is taste and preferences. So we typically find customers who are adventurous, who like trying new flavors, and therefore it's important to kind of keep sharing with them the new innovations that we do. And at the same time, there are those who are convenience seekers, for whom it's really important to be able to reorder their last order. And speaking from a Singapore example, we recently launched the Cheesy 7 Durian Pizza. And Cheesy 7 is something we've launched before, but we added durian to refresh it this time. And we use data very effectively to reach out to customers who had ordered Cheesy 7 previously. And obviously, we've leveraged the browsing data to ensure that we're able to send out the messaging, on Cheesy 7 Durian. And then also, of course, use the data for customer feedback to ensure that our execution is as per our standards.
Very, very cool. Very cool. Yeah, I can see those options when my kids a couple of weekends back, they were trying to order. They saw that durian pizza was part of the menu list. So that's very, very cool. So we are now going to transition into a live Q&A. As a reminder, you will be able to submit any written questions to the questions panel. In case we are not able to answer your questions today, we'll follow up with everyone individually via email. So Pankaj, the first question we have is, what are the few trends that Pizza Hut is saying in North America versus in the APAC region? Are there any similarities or differences that you can highlight to our audience?
Sure, Abhinav. I think we are seeing several trends pretty much across the world, frankly. There is, what we would call a trend towards flocking to the familiar. Consumers are today hunkering down, and in such difficult or challenging times, there is a tendency to rely even more on the brands you're familiar with. And therefore, brands like Pizza Hut, which tend to be leaders in every market, are benefiting from that trend. The other is what we would call, an element of frugalism in our consumers, and therefore, a desire to spend even more wisely. That's a trend that we are seeing across. And then, of course, this whole trend towards digitizing. So those are the three I would call out as trends across the world. Perhaps in Asia, the speed at which the market has responded to the conditions has been even faster, and it shows the resilience of Asia. To give you an example, Pizza Hut China was one of the first brands to introduce contactless delivery, pretty quickly when this incident happened, and it's been since then adapted and taken on by every market around the world within the Pizza Hut system.
Wow. Okay, that's interesting. So I have a question for you, Calvin, and that's: are there any challenges Sears faced during the project execution of a Pizza Hut? Is there any suggestion, advice that you would like to share with your audience who are planning to embark on data lake implementation?
Right. So fortunately, I think due to the strong support from the Pizza Hut team itself, I think there were not many challenges or roadblocks along the way. I think firstly, some of the data was actually not stored within their premise, and it's actually within their partners' data silos itself. So we had to make sure that they are legally qualified. We had to make sure that we prove that we have ownership of the data and is able to ingest them. And I think secondly, due to the nature of the PII and security compliance of these data, we had to make sure that security again is of utmost importance, right? We had to ensure that the data at transit and at rest is also encrypted with strong AES 256 protocols, and also making sure that the partners adhere to the same as well.
Okay, awesome. I think I have only time for one more question. That's for you, Pankaj. Has the business model evolved or evolving in the current climate, especially during this pandemic? And what are the things that you are planning to drive going forward, given the current situation?
So very clearly, Abhinav, there is a shift from eating out towards home meal replacement, and therefore, as a brand, we were really well placed. We have the infrastructure in terms of the delivery fleet, we have the distribution, we also have digital technology. So I think along with home meal replacement, the other trend that we have seen is increasingly to order online. And again, just the fact that we had the digital infrastructure has been of a big benefit. So overall, our business has grown in the digital area by 35% this year, and we're very happy, with the pace at which that growth has happened. We see that trend continuing, and therefore our journey is going to be even more critical towards digital transformation, and big data is going to have a big role to play in that.
Awesome, cool, very good. I know we've come to the end of the webinar. Thank you so much, Pankaj and Calvin, for sharing your experience and how you guys have helped Pizza Hut in their implementation journey on Data Lake. Thank you, Pankaj, for joining us. And yeah, now we have come to the end of this webinar. Thank you so much, appreciate it. So as a next step, if you want to learn more about Searce, you can go to searce.com home. As I mentioned earlier, they are advanced analytics partner, advanced consulting partner with AWS data analytics competency. Obviously, you can go to AWS to learn more about different products and services and how you can leverage to and embark on data analytics journey. A friendly reminder for everyone, you will receive an email to fill out the satisfaction survey after the webinar. Please do provide us your valuable feedback. And again, thank you, Pankaj and Calvin, for joining us. Have a good rest of the day, team.